All right, hey everybody, we're live. Thank you for joining me for this, the first ever live stream on the Kids Shoryuken channel. Big event. So thank you everyone who's joining us tonight. Tonight I have two super awesome guests here for my channel. I asked them if they would join me for my first ever live stream, and they were all too happy to do so because they're my good buds. So first up, man, purveyor of all things video games, horror, and heavy metal. I know him best as Andrew. You would know him best as RPG Machine 86.
What's up, guys? How you doing? Glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here. I feel so much safer in your in, in your presence, in your virtual presence. All right, so uh, all right, and also joining us, super awesome, great guy, good friend of mine. He's the #1 pro wrestler in all of Panama. He's the forger of pain and all-around nice guy, Carcamo.
I'm the forger of pain, man, and not only pain, video games too, and also horror and imports and everything, dude. That's why I think we get along just fine because we're kind of in the same road, you know. But the important thing is that we're all gamers, and that's what makes us brothers. So what's up? Thank you guys for being here in this first live stream. Last night I did one only to I was just testing because I never done it before. And I feel great. I mean, it was supposed to be 30 minutes, and it was 3 freaking hours. But anyway, well, thanks. I'm glad to be here. And thank you, Jim. Thank you for the invitation.
Well, thank you for being here. That was some test you had. I did a test that lasted about 30 minutes. You did a test that lasted all night, well into the morning. I couldn't even stay awake for the whole test. But I'm so grateful that both of you guys are here. Got Andrew, and I got Carcamo, the Forger of Pain and the Breaker of Hearts, I might add.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, so for those people who might not be super familiar with you guys that watch my channel, aren't necessarily aware of you guys yet, I want to get everybody familiar with you, give you a good intro. So we're going to start first with Andrew, Mr. Machine. A quick spiel, a quick history of yourself. Tell us about your history with games, metal, horror, because I know you're a guy that's into a lot of stuff.
Yeah, well, like he said, my channel is the RPG Machine 86. My name's Andrew. I like heavy metal music, mostly like heavy metal, punk, and hardcore. I was in a band for like a decade, and we played pretty heavy stuff. As far as video games go, I mean, my name says it all. RPGs are like what I like the most. I'd say probably second of all, it would be like shooters, like shoot 'em ups, not first-person shooters, and then like fighting games, mostly 2D fighters. Let's see. I started playing games when I was like 4. My parents got me an NES. That was the first system, the first game I ever played. Mario was the first thing I ever saw, like game-wise. Yeah, so that's about it, I guess. I don't really know what else to say. He says I like horror movies. That's why he brought that up. I'm a junkie for that kind of stuff.
Now
So,
you've played with some pretty epic metal bands, though, haven't you?
yeah, my past band, we were called Descent to Casitas, which is Casitas is in Dante's Inferno. If any of you know what that is, it's like this old poem from like way back in the day, about this guy that like travels to hell. And Casitas is the frozen lake where Lucifer's trapped. And well, we played with Exodus, Suffocation, Nile, Hate Eternal, Winds of Plague, just a bunch of bands, Cattle Decapitation, a lot of bands.
All the big names, then.
The only band we really didn't get to play with that I wanted to was Cannibal Corpse. We didn't get to do that, but
That's a bummer because that would have been a real feather in your cap to play with Cannibal Corpse.
Yeah.
But playing with Exodus is almost just as good.
I mean, yeah, that was pretty awesome. And the cool thing when we played with Suffocation, they actually held their set back like 20 minutes so that we could actually play because they were going to make us not play. And the dudes from Suffocation were like, no, you got to let them play. So that was really cool.
That is cool. So the guys in Suffocation, there's some real sweethearts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I guess they have a big heart, those metal hardcore guys.
See, that I find that all the time is, usually the most hardcore metalheads are usually also like the most like tender-hearted, sensitive dudes you've ever met in your entire life.
Or maybe hardcore wrestlers too, man.
Well, speaking of Carcamo, now I addressed this already, but you're not only a gamer, you're not only big into the import scene, you're also a long-time, very successful professional wrestler. So please give us a bit of a backstory on your history with video games, imports in particular, and your history with pro wrestling, because I find it very interesting.
Okay, thanks, Tim. I'll try to be quick because that's like I have to cram in a lot. So anyway, I started gaming since I could use my brain. My dad gave me an Atari 2600 when I was 4, and I've been gaming ever since. And my dad, he always like incentivized me to keep on playing. And yeah, actually that was it for me with gaming. In Panama, the things with imports, that in South America and Central America, we had a lot of anime during the 80s and the 90s, and it died off then, like the beginning of the 2000s. And the thing is that, yeah, it was pretty common in Panamanians to know anime. And the other thing that we had here, I was talking about last night in my stream, is that we got here, not anymore, but we got a lot of piracy. And we used to have like Famicom, and I don't know why, but during the 80s, Famicom here was cheaper than Nintendo, than the NES. And that was like, we didn't know, obviously, there was no internet. And for us, that was like a poor man's version of the Nintendo, the Famicom. And really, we got like 10 in one card, like 5 on one game on one card, and we got to play a lot of imports that never made it here. And same thing happened with Super Nintendo. We got the Super Famicom. The Super Nintendo, no, the cards, the Super Famicom cards were already modded, and you didn't have to take like the little things on the SNES. And well, we got the same with PlayStation, man. Then a few years later, PlayStation got here and it kicked everybody's ass. Like, I'm setting the ground, I'm getting a lawyer, and fuck piracy. And then that was it for us. But yeah, that's how we got to play many of a lot of imports. We got to play Rurouni Kenshin, we got to play Hokuto no Ken on PlayStation. We got to play all the Dragon Ball Z games, and I could go, and we got as Castlevania Symphony of the Night, we got to play Soul Edge, not Soul Blade. We got to play Soul Edge, many games before they made it to America. And anyway, yeah, then Nintendo and PlayStation came and they fixed that. But thanks to that, thing that wasn't legal, I got to know imports because in that time, internet wasn't as big as it is today. And well, about wrestling, it's kind of the same story with video games. The first match that I saw when I was a kid was Andre the Giant versus Hulk Hogan WrestleMania 3.
Oh, classic.
Yeah, that was like the first match I ever saw. And it was, for me, really, I saw these guys and they were like superheroes to me. Like, they were doing things, larger than life. And I said, like, I wanted to be a wrestler when I was a kid. And sometimes you grow up and then you like, for example, everybody, when they're a kid, they're like, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a police, I want to be a hero, whatever. And then you find yourself, you mature, I guess. But the thing is that I never grew up because I never changed. I'm the same kid that liked video games, wrestling, anime, and yeah, that's me. I was telling a friend a couple of days ago that all my influences are in wrestling and video games. Because I started lifting weights because of Arnie, man. Arnold Schwarzenegger. The first movie I saw was Conan the Barbarian, and I was like, I'm like, man, I want to be like that guy. I started wrestling because of Hulk Hogan, and I became a gamer because of my dad. And so yeah, with the thing that I did, Jim and Andrew, I pursued my dream, and I started wrestling. One of my biggest influence was Mick Foley. So I did, because I don't do anymore. I did a lot of hardcore wrestling. I did it for like 4 years. Really, and we get to that. That's gonna be like another episode. But trust me, I could give you stories about all my shattered jaw. Like I lost my sight for half a day, and yes,
Holy
really
shit.
fucked up shit, man. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell, guys. The Forger of Pain.
That's awesome. I've fucking loved pro wrestling since I was, I don't know, old enough to understand what I was looking at, and I think that's awesome that you've gotten to pursue your dream of pro wrestling. Because I think at some point every kid kind of who liked wrestling when they were a kid dreamed of being a wrestler at some point. Everybody wanted to
Definitely.
do that. Everybody wanted to do that. So that's awesome that you got to actually, venture out and try that and actually make a really good go of it, because I've watched plenty of your matches and some of the other stuff you've done on the side, and it seems like you've made a real success out of it. So that's totally awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so we're going to move on. Recently, I was tagged in one of these tag videos that's floating around. That's actually becoming a lot more prevalent on YouTube again. For a long time, I hadn't seen any kind of tag videos, and then all of a sudden, like, several of them came up, and I've been tagged a couple of times now. This most recent time, it was a tag that was started by the 16-Bit Brothers out in the UK. It worked its way to Weekend Game Guy, a friend of mine named Chris Long here on YouTube, who I highly encourage everybody to go check out. Weekend Game Guy. He's a really excellent YouTuber. But he went ahead and tagged me, and there are 4 questions in there. And so I thought maybe instead of just making a regular old tag response video, we could go ahead and address it right here on this live stream. So there are actually 4 questions as part of this tag, and I guess we can go ahead and do a little discussion on these. But the first question is, do you struggle when buying games now? And if so, why? So, Andrew, what do you think? Do you have any struggles when you're buying games now?
Every game I buy, every single game I buy, I question myself whether I want to spend the money on it, whether I want to buy it in the condition it's in. I mean, like, it. I feel like if you don't, you've got too much money. Because, like, games are expensive. They are so expensive, and like, for me, honestly, I don't like to spend more than $10 on any game, like, at all. And I have different rules for different systems. Like Atari, I don't like spending more than $1. If I spend more than $1 on a cartridge, I start feeling really bad about it because there's not a lot to those games, you know. And yeah, like every game I buy, I struggle. Definitely.
So you're not super concerned with like rarity or the quote unquote prestige of having a certain game. You're looking for things to play.
Yeah, I mean, I am a collector, but I am definitely a gamer, like, player more than I am a collector. Like, I only buy games that I'm interested in playing, like, or maybe, you know, it's been recommended to me and, like, by someone that I know is, you know, likes the same kind of games as me and stuff. Yeah, I try not to buy just filler stuff unless it's cheap. Like, if 50 cents or $1, I'll buy just about any game, you know, because, like, why wouldn't you? It's $1. Like, what are you going to do with that? So, but, yeah, I struggle every game I buy, pretty much.
I get that because I'm becoming a little more frugal myself now. When there was a certain point, and if you watch any of my backlog videos, you know that I was totally indiscriminate when I was buying games, and that's why I would always end up with just stacks and stacks everywhere. That's why I actually have stacks and stacks now. But times for me are changing. It's coming up. There's a move on the rise. I'm gonna, new apartment, new wife in the near future, and moving all this shit around from country to country gets a little bit pricey. So I'm becoming much, much more considerate when it comes to buying games. I actually, since moving back to the States late last July, I have not bought a single video game, which is really, really weird for me when for like, a half decade straight.
You deserve a medal, man. You deserve a medal.
Yeah,
Yeah, no
uh,
doubt.
a big adjustment for me going from almost every weekend combing through just finding a new heart off and going and trying to find as many games as possible to not buying anything at all and going so far as to start selling off chunks of my collection. Yeah, I haven't been buying anything whatsoever. So beyond just hesitant or cautious, it's just like non-existent at this point. Um, Now, Carcamo, I can't imagine you struggling when you buy games because you're Mr. Moneybags over there, right?
Oh my God, I wish. But it depends. It depends what I'm looking for. For the most part, I'm always, I'm a collector too, and yeah, well, I'm a gamer. I mean, I collect and I play. I try to play. But the thing is that I'm always looking for retro stuff. And like I said last night, here in Panama, it's really hard to be a retro collector. And to be honest, was mostly because of story with piracy. Because many people got accustomed to, have like the thing pirated and not paying like what it's supposed to be, and emulators and stuff. And back then, many people just like they threw their games away, and there's a lack of really, it's a lack of retro games here. If you're lucky, you can get like Nintendo 64, but really getting like NES and SNES is pretty hard. It's pretty hard to come by. The thing that I've been lucky, thanks to my wrestling career, um, I was traveling a lot last year and the year before that, and I went to Peru, I went to Costa Rica, I went to Ecuador, and I went to Florida. I went to Florida 3 times, and that's when I went nuts because I mean I was like, I really have to take this chance, and I went to flea markets, I went to a few garage sales, and if you see, there must be in my Facebook page. When I went to Florida, I always went with a bag, with my wrestling gear and my civilian clothes, and I would get back with a whole new bag just filled with video games. And so that's kind of my struggle. And the thing that I do the most, well, I'm trying not to do as often because money, I guess. It's
Right.
but I always get my things on eBay because I mean I have no choice, and I get my things on eBay, and I'm kind of I'm kind of used to the eBay prices because I've seen like Flea Market Madness from Pat the NES Punk, and I've seen the price and I'm like that's freaking ridiculous. That's so cheap. You guys are so freaking lucky you're over there. And I've seen I think it's Business 17 Justin his pickups, and all of you guys that do pickups. Well Andrew. I saw he bought an Xbox game for $1, and really the thing here, like the most thing that you can get retro stuff. It's a store. I think you have it there. It's Play and Trade, and it's like 50-50 because sometimes you get good deals, but sometimes you don't, and it's like finding a needle in a haystack. So that's kind of my struggle. And the other struggle is I think I'm not the only one. Once when buying, I buy a lot of collector's edition, and nowadays I don't know what's going on, but it's not. I mean, it's not that it's killing the hobby. I mean, kind of is. When something pops up, let's say for example, the new 3DS, the Majora's Mask collector's edition. That has like the skull kid stuff and on the front, the golden one. Anyway, that popped on Amazon, and I kid you not, it lasted like for 15 minutes. So now when you want to get those type of things, it's like it's a race. It's a race that you can't win, and and you have to get lucky. And when you can't get it, you have to buy the pre-order from a guy on eBay. And if the pre-order was $100, the guy is selling it for 250, and well, yeah, that's another struggle that, yeah, fuck scalpers, man.
So that's like multiple layers of struggling. Like if you don't have an excess amount of cash, you're kind of struggling with what do you buy, what do you leave. And even if you do have the excess amount of cash, it's a struggle just to get the games, period.
That's right. It sucks.
So many struggles, so little time. All right, moving on to the next question. And I guess I'll start on this one. The question is, have you ever regretted trading in something, um, games in particular? And I can say I definitely have. Um, I think in 2000, late 2000, in December, I had gotten a Dreamcast for Christmas, and all I really wanted for it was a copy of Shenmue. And I wasn't able to get one. Just I guess the stores my parents checked, they just didn't have any. So I ended up going to a Funko Land, which those were still in operation at the time. And a lot like GameStop today, you could trade in games and then you would get like nil, almost nothing for them. And I ended up trading in, I think, my entire Super Nintendo collection, my Super Nintendo, a ton of PlayStation games, N64 stuff. Like I traded in a lot of stuff, and I walked out with a copy of Shenmue, um, some other Dreamcast game that I don't even remember the title of now, and a Todd McFarlane Akira action figure. That was it. Those were the three things I got for like basically three-quarters of my video game collection at the time when I was like 13 or 14 years old.
That
Uh,
hurt. That hurt.
that was bad. I gave up a lot to get Shenmue, which I really enjoyed. It's one of my favorite games. The other games sucked. I think I ended up returning it at some point, and then I had a pretty sweet action figure. But at the same time, I was down all that other stuff that I didn't really care about at the time. But then within a few years after that, I was really, really regretting trading all that stuff in. Andrew, have you ever traded in anything that you kicked yourself about later?
Oh, so much stuff, dude. I was always that kid that wanted to trade in my old stuff to get the new thing. Like I did it every time. The thing I regret the most is the fact that I had a copy of Mega Man 7 and Chrono Trigger. I had both of those games, and I traded them in like a long time ago to get like PS2 games or something. Uh, like, yeah, I know, man. That's the one that hurts the most. Mega Man 7 hurts the most because you guys know how expensive it is, the American version. Uh, that definitely hurts the most, but I've done it a lot. Like, not just then. Like, even when I got my 360, my first 360, I traded in all my original Xbox stuff, and I had to buy all that shit back. Like, because I was that kid, man. I just traded stuff in because I didn't have any money. My parents were broke. Like they had no money. They weren't buying me games when they were $60 a piece, you know. So if I wanted games, I had to get rid of my old ones. That's just the way it worked out. I regret it, but at the same time, I try not to look in the past and like I'll find the games again. Like I pretty much have almost every game that I had as a kid now. There's just a few here and there that I need. So you know stuff comes and goes. It's just the way life is.
That's the curse of being a kid and a gamer at the same time, especially in a family on a fixed income. Is pretty much birthday and Christmas are your only two shots at getting some video games, and if you fall short on those days, you're screwed. You
Yep.
have it's either trade in all your stuff to get something new that you might love just as much, or just do without. And yeah, a lot of kids, myself included, went the route of trading in mountains of games, usually with regrettable outcome. Carcamo, similar experiences for you?
Actually, even sadder, and I have right here the evidence.
That's where you went.
Uh,
I thought
yeah.
you were in the John or something.
So I want to ask you guys if you're ready for the saddest trading story of your lives. So you ready,
Oh
guys?
God.
Oh, I am ready.
When I was actually to be exactly, that was 1996. I was in yes, piracy again, just because. I had my super. Obviously, here Super Nintendo, they were for real, you know. And PlayStation came. It was PlayStation and the Nintendo 64. And yeah, I was kind of like Andrew said. I could my father could only spend so much, and I wanted the new stuff for the PlayStation. Now, my dad already got me the PlayStation, a few original games. Here it was very customary. It was regular to mod your PlayStation. My PlayStation was already modded. And then this guy came, a Chinito, Chinese guy. Okay, if you're watching this in Panama, that's not racist, okay? So a Chinito came and told me, like, why don't you give me all your Super NES games, and I'll give you a couple of PlayStation games. And I'm talking about CDs, pirated CDs, and I have them right here. They're not even like top-notch quality. So anyway,
Sounds
and I'm
like
like,
something a Shinito would say.
okay, you can hear me?
Yeah, I said that sounds like something a Shinito would say.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, they understand. Chinito would say. So yeah, that's what Chinito told me. And I was like, and it's still in Panama, we had a lot of arcades then. And I was so happy because we got a lot of my favorite games still that I wanted. King of Fighters 96, Marvel Superheroes, Dynasty Warriors, the first one when it was just a fighting game.
Right.
And well, anyway, here I go. So check out my trade. Check out my stupid trade. I had Contra 3. I had Mega Man X 1 and 2. I had Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. I had like the coolest games. I can't remember right now. So anyway, now it was a total I kid you not, like 15 games, and now here's what I got. Now it's not the whole thing. So I got. Okay, where is it? Wait a minute, guys. Oh, this is my old. Okay, I don't do piracy. This is like my old when I used to do piracy. This is like my old stuff. Okay. Now I have everything original, guys. Piracy is not good. Winners don't do piracy. So wait a minute. Give me a second. I know how it here. Okay, yeah. I got Fighting Force. You want to check Fighting Force? There it is. Fighting Force right there. Can you see that? That awesome. That's freaking Fighting Force, man. This is probably Mega Man X. So let's see. I got Fighting Force. I remember what I got. I just have to see it because they had shitty labels. I got. Oh my God, where is King of Fighters, man? Okay. I got. Okay, actually, King of Fighters was kind of decent. I got King of Fighters. Can you see it right there?
Yeah,
It's
somebody put a little effort into that.
It looks better than Fighting Force.
True.
So I got. You ready for Marvel Superheroes? I don't think you are. So I got Marvel Superheroes. I got Marvel Superheroes. And what I did in my time, I printed the cover and I put it right here. So I printed the cover so it wouldn't be as shitty.
It's like polishing a turd, dude.
I know you weren't ready for this story, man. I told you guys. No, check this out. That's what I do to identify the games and put the thing over there.
Them are sweet, man.
Yeah, the kick-ass trade, right? So what else did I get? Okay, I don't remember. I got Dragon. I think it was Dragon Ball GT. Was that 97 or 96? No, but I got Dragon Ball GT. Awesome.
Oh man.
Awesome label.
That's the limited edition.
Yeah, that's a freaking
Yeah.
And I got Dynasty Warriors. Here's Dynasty Warriors. It wasn't it had, it was pretty something because it had the translation. It was Japanese and there's in English.
Nice.
Yeah, nice. I know, man.
So it did you a service, man.
And I got Star Gladiator 2. No, the number 1. I said 2 because Star Gladiator.
Nice.
I got awesome games for 15 SNES games. Man, I'm the idiot of the year.
Jeez. Do those things still play?
I I don't know, man. I haven't tried them yet. So
You've tried
anyway,
to forget about him.
yeah, I was trying to forget about it until Andrew opened his mouth. Actually, until you did with your question. So, but yeah, same thing happened to Andrew happened to me because now I own like most of the games that I used to own when I was a kid, and I've been getting them back. And yeah, that's it. Sad freaking story. Boo hoo, man.
Well, sad, yes, but it's entertaining for others. So, but at least there's that. You got a few laughs out of it.
Yeah, I guess so.
Your pain is our amusement.
And for that, we thank you.
Fuck you, Andrew. Fuck you.
Son of a bitch. All right. Okay, we're halfway through these questions. Before we move on to the next couple of questions, everybody that's watching right now, if you have some questions on your mind for either myself, Andrew, or Carcamo, go ahead and populate the comments section with those. After we get through these next couple of questions here and discussing them, we're going to move on to questions from the audience. So if you have any questions for us, go ahead, shoot. No topic is taboo. We're ready.
Yeah, we're freaking ready, man.
We're so ready. All right, moving on to the next question. Is there a game, or let's say you had to choose one game that you could basically erase it from your memory, that way you could play it over again like it was the first time you played it? If you could do that for just one game, what game would it be? Carcamo, we will start with you.
Okay, let me think. That would be Silent Hill 2. And I don't know, I don't want to talk about it too much because I guess like most, no, I don't want to put labels. I was gonna say like most hardcore gamers, but that's not fair. But I'm sure like many people have heard about it or played the game. But really, it would be if I talk about it, it would be a freaking ass spoiler. Let's just say when I play that game, and I love Silent Hill 2, man. That's like my Bible, man. But when I play that game, it was like, to quote M. Night Shyamalan, was what a twist. And yes, it was a freaking twist. I never saw it coming. And I wish I could forget it again. And I'm just gonna say this without spoiling, and I'm sure that nobody's gonna even get it if you haven't played the game. But the answer is like in your face when you start the game, and after you beat it and you play the game again, you're like, oh, I never noticed that before. But yeah, it's some sick, cool stuff. So, but yeah, it would definitely be Silent Hill 2. Awesome game, man. Go play it.
That's good. I definitely I can see that a horror game would be a good choice, just because a lot of the fun of a horror game is not knowing what's coming up next, and so being able to erase one of those and then just kind of experience it all over again, that would be pretty advantageous. Andrew, what game would you go with if you could just totally blank it out of your mind and experience it for the first time again? What would you go with?
That's such a hard question.
No, man, it's freaking hard.
I could go with the obvious choice, which would be Chrono Trigger, because it's my favorite game of all time. But honestly, and people might give me shit about this because it's not retro at all, but Fallout 3. Fallout 3 is fucking awesome. If you guys never played it,
good choice.
It's so good. The storyline's so awesome, and again, like Carcamo said, I'm not going to spoil anything, but at the end of that game, you realize something that blows your fucking mind, so hard. You're like, what? And, to relive that'd be awesome, because I remember the night me and a friend of mine, we were playing it, and I was this close to beating it. I was in, the last dungeon, or whatever you'd want to call it, and, I was going through, and we got to the part where it happens, where this certain event happens, and we both just looked at each other, and just to have that moment back, that'd be pretty awesome.
Fallout 3 is definitely one of those games where it was just instant classic. Like regardless of when it came out, that's just one of those games that if you've played through it, it's like cemented in your mind. It's just one of those games that's just fucking amazing. It's really hard to top a game like that. Actually, that stands out as one of my favorite games ever. Period. Really,
Yeah,
when I
me
think
too.
about it. Amazing game. Both great answers for me. I think I would go with something. For me, a game that was like really impressive for me the first time I played it because it was so like grandiose and it seemed like almost artistic. Was Shadow of the Colossus.
Oh man, the
Great
awesome,
choice. That's a really good one too.
awesome game. Yeah.
That's just a game that the first time I played it, it's like I was glued to the screen, like just the visuals combined with the music. I mean, the music is implemented perfectly. Like it's somber when it needs to be, and then when it needs to pick up, it does. The gameplay was at the time. I mean, people have tried to copy it in subtle ways and not so subtle ways since then. But at the time, that was something that, to me that was just brilliant. And despite the fact that you have basically, for the most part, a barren landscape. I mean, it's not barren, but it's not populated, and
Yeah.
you're spending a lot of time just going from one place to the next, and you think that would get boring, but just because of just the awesome visual design, the art direction, I mean, it never got boring for me. When on paper it seems like it should, but for some odd reason it didn't. And I think that's just one of those games. It's not many, but that's one that I think I appreciated as more than just a game. Like I thought of like a more artistic side to it. And I don't know, it felt like very grandiose to me, and like something like very very special. So I think if I could just erase that from my memory and then just kind of like experience it over again, I think I could be comfortable with choosing Shadow of the Colossus. That's a really great game.
One thing I want to say about that game real quick too is that I feel like that was the first game where they got like we're going to make a game that's like a movie and like it worked, right? You know what I mean? Like it definitely feels like cinematic with the way that everything is just like you said. I mean, there's no people or anything in it, but it just the vast like beauty of everything you see, like I don't know, the scale and everything. It's awesome. The game's awesome.
It's a game that I actually got emotionally invested in, which is really weird because throughout the entirety of that game, that the horse aggro is like the bane of my existence because it's never doing what I want it to do. When I really really need it, it seems like it's miles away, and you're just hitting the button to call it, and the guy's like just screaming like for dear life for the horse to come back and save him. So throughout the entirety of the game, I'm just like, I hate that fucking horse. Then you get to the last colossi, and it falls down a chasm, and you're just like, the fucking horse died. And it really, it's like this heartbreaking experience. You fucking shit all over that. You shit all over that horse. It irritates the ever living hell out of you throughout the entire game, and then you feel bad, when it dies. And definitely, it has a cinematic feel to it that I think games are, especially nowadays, really go for. They're trying to like transcend being
But
games.
they don't pull it off.
They don't. They want to be movies. That was
The thing is that I think they're concentrating on being a movie and not being a game, and then
That's true.
the game loses like the gameplay part. That's what I've heard because I haven't played it yet. That's the thing that I've heard about the Order 1886, that it's concentrated on being like a movie, and like the gameplay, it's really lacking. So, but many games are doing that nowadays. And I want to say something about Shadow of the Colossus too. Actually, it happened the same thing. Like the same thing happened to you, Jim. Happened to me, and it reminded me. There's this freaking awesome movie that I love. It's called Never Ending Story, the first one.
just thinking about that.
Yeah, and it reminded me of Atreyu and Artax.
Yeah.
And yes,
Oh yeah.
it reminded me. And every time, and even before that scene in the game, I played, and the first thing that I thought about was like you're using Atreyu and Artax. And when that happens, I went back to the 80s and to the movie where where Artax is in the the mud,
Mm-hmm.
the quicksand and stuff. And really, me too. I was like, oh my god, that's fucking Argo. So
That
yeah,
poor horse.
yeah,
That poor son of a bitch horse. But no, I felt the exact same way. That was immediately was what came to mind was Atreyu writing Artex, because even the character Wonder, he's kind of similar to Atreyu in a way. Like he's especially like his look is somewhat similar. It seems like they kind of obviously went for sort of like a quasi Native American design when they were
Yeah.
designing Wander. And that's kind of like what Atreyu is, I guess, more or less portrayed as. He hunts the purple buffalo on the plains and shit, but he's kind of analogous for Native Americans. And yeah, I don't know, maybe Neverending Story was an inspiration when they were doing the visual design for Shadow of the Colossus. We may never know.
maybe.
I feel like
But
that game cemented the PS2 as a juggernaut of a system too. Like really.
like that for different, like I think it would be Shadow of the Colossus. Eco was super awesome, but people didn't really appreciate it at the time it came out.
I feel like people don't get that game as much as they do Shadow. You know what I mean? Like I don't think people understand it because they look at it as a fetch quest, which it kind of is. But I don't think people get that game as much. I love it. I love that game. I think it's a beautiful game.
I think something that makes both games really awesome is just the fact that they have emotional content. You know, there's in Eco, you develop an emotional bond. Just the simple act of you're holding the girl's hand pretty much everywhere you go. Like it's I don't know, the two characters working hand in hand together throughout the entire game. It like builds a bond, kind of like the same way in Shadow of the Colossus with the horse. Even though you don't really realize it at the time, you think you hate the horse. It turns out you love the horse.
Yeah, it's a love-hate relationship.
It was like 90% hate, and then it was love, like right at the very end when it was dying. So
Don't know what you got till it's gone.
that's for sure.
Totally right.
All right, we're gonna move on to the final question that was brought up in this tag video, and it's an interesting one, and I'm gonna throw it to you first, Andrew. If you could be buried with a console after you die, what console would you like to accompany your corpse for eternity?
Super Nintendo. I don't
Elaborate.
even have to think about. I don't have to think about it. Like yeah, Super Nintendo.
So if somebody comes up like a century later and digs you up for some reason, and they'll be like, "Wow, this dude really loves Super Nintendo," and then they'll do unspeakable things to your corpse
Oh,
because
no
they're
kidding.
because they're Sega fans and like, "Fuck this guy."
No, it's just that the NES has a really high place for me because it's my first system, but the Super Nintendo is when I was actually old enough to understand games. Because, I mean, I was like 4 when I got my NES. You know, like it. I understood how to play Mario, and then when I got Zelda, I used to just like run around in that game and not complete anything. And then when I got a little older and I got my Super, I started to understand things. I started playing RPGs and like understanding that like you actually go somewhere and there's a story to games. So yeah, definitely the Super Nintendo.
I understand. I have because you and I we're the same age, so that's the Super Nintendo. That really because I played NES games. My brother, my older brother, he was a big fan of Mega Man and Castlevania, so I got to play those games, but they were really way over my head. More so, I just enjoyed watching him play and just being entertained by that more than anything. But yeah, Super Nintendo was my first console where I was really understanding what I was doing and really starting to have some kind of skill at it. I think for me, it would be a tough decision between the Super Nintendo and the PlayStation. Just because the PlayStation, that was the first console I got that was mine and mine only. I got that. My brother had moved out of the house by then, so I was the only person in the home. I was the only person who played video games, so the PlayStation was mine. And I remember being just so incredibly impressed by games like Tomb Raider and Resident Evil. Crash Bandicoot. Even my first time playing a PlayStation, I think I was playing Soviet Strike, and just the fact that there was FMV in it like blew me away. I was like maybe like 10 years old, and I was like, "There's real people in the video game." Um,
Yeah,
so
that's
so
what I
I
thought too.
it was awesome. I just remember the PlayStation being so incredibly like impressive to me when I was like 10 years old. And aside from it just being initially impressive, it was just a fantastic system anyway that had a million great games on it that I got a lot of enjoyment out of. So it's really a toss-up between the Super Nintendo and the PlayStation for me. But I say in the end, I'd probably go with the Super Nintendo just for that nostalgic remembering, the time when my parents rented Mega Man X and my older brother had a sleepover, and then one of his friends stole it from the house just specifically so that way he could return it so my brother could have a copy of Mega Man X. And despite
That's awesome.
they did it deliberately. Everyone suspected me, but I was like 7 years old. I was like, "There's no way I did that. How would I possibly get away with it?" So we ended up, yeah, our copy of Mega Man X was a loose cart, and it still had the sticker on it from the rental store, just because that was obviously a scheme cooked up by my brother and his friends, because they loved Mega Man X that much. They would go to any lengths to play it. So yeah, I think in the long run I'd be buried with the Super Nintendo. Carcamo, what about you?
Well, to me, the answer it's pretty easy. The PlayStation 1. PlayStation, I freaking love PlayStation. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Nintendo, but like I said, consoles define like the stages of my life. Atari when I was a toddler. NES was, my childhood, and then it came to, remember, guys. I think we all gone through the same experience. You know, right now you're a grown up, and you can do with your money whatever the heck you want, and you can buy all the freaking consoles in the world. I mean, but back then you could only pick one. I got Nintendo. I passed on the Sega Genesis. Played on the Sega Genesis on a friend's house. That's what we all did when we passed on a console. Then it came Super Nintendo, and I played. Then it came. It was about to, the 64 was coming out, and PlayStation was coming out, and it was a hard choice for me. But what it fixed the deal for me was just like Jim. I saw like the FMVs, and I'm like, oh my God, there's real people there. And really, it's just different nowadays. That's like, it's nothing. You take it for granted. But back then, that was pretty something. And the audio, it sounded better. The images, the graphics was 3D, and there was a lot of new IPs. There was Resident Evil. There was, like I said, I always loved Street Fighter. For me, fuck Street Fighter 4, Ultra, Super Tekken, Street Fighter 5. My favorite fighting game is Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2. That's my favorite fighting game of all freaking time. So what happened? I saw Street Fighter Alpha, and I just saw Street Fighter 2, the animated movie, and I'm like, oh my God! And that also sealed the deal. I went with PlayStation. The other thing is that I won't tell the story here because it's kind of a long story. But the PlayStation for me has a really awesome, pretty memory of my dad. For those that don't know, my dad passed away last year, and really I love my dad. I wouldn't be a gamer if it wasn't for him. I wouldn't be a wrestler if it wasn't for him. My dad supported me in every single freaking way. My dad saw me with skin, coming out of my arm. My dad saw me without teeth, with a broken jaw. And he was always supporting me. So, well, anyway, I digress. Getting back in the subject, my dad went to extreme lengths to get me a PlayStation because in Panama, PlayStation got here a little late. My dad went to Florida and he bought me a PlayStation. So, and well, besides, obviously the nostalgic memories, I mean, PlayStation is a freaking awesome system. I'm still getting PlayStation games, mostly imports. The library is, and it's Yeah, it's huge. It's freaking huge. And all my favorite games are on PlayStation 1. Suikoden 2, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, um, Street Fighter Alpha 2. I like puzzle fighters. I don't know. I'm a sucker for that.
Oh
There's
yeah, they're awesome, dude.
yeah,
Love Puzzle Fighter.
Xenogears, man, RPGs.
Classic.
Brave Fencer, freaking Musashi, man. And
Nice.
yeah, I mean, I could talk to you for hours about PlayStation. I love it. I'm a big fan of RPGs too. Valkyrie Profile, man, that's an awesome RPG. And yeah, I love RPGs, and that was for me. That was like the RPG console was PlayStation, and it's pretty awesome, really. I have also, like you saw, I have like like bad scarring, jarring memories of the PlayStation.
You have all
So I
those.
ha-
You have all those sweet limited editions. That's what you have.
Yeah, so I have those two. So it would be PlayStation. And like I said, still, man, still I'm discovering new games that I never heard before. And so yeah, it would be PlayStation. So
You're
that's it.
making me want to. You're making me want to change my answer now to PlayStation.
Yeah, me too, right?
You're making a lot of good points over there, man.
Yeah, man, I tell you, man, PlayStation is a shit, man. PlayStation 1.
That wallet, man. Oh, that wallet.
PlayStation 1 is, yeah, I don't know. I might have to change my
guys.
answer.
You can still regret it. What's your answer?
All right, I think I might have to switch to PlayStation. You're right, dude. It is the pretty much the RPG system. I mean, Super Nintendo has some classic RPGs. It has Chrono Trigger. It has Dragon Quest Five.
Well, it's on PlayStation.
Yes, they did re-release it for PlayStation. You can buy the Final Fantasy Anthology and Chronicles. I mean, but it's got Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9. It's got. I love Brave Fencer Musashi. I love Xenogears. I love Star Ocean: The Second Story is one of my
Awesome game. Persona, man, Persona. All freaking awesome on PlayStation.
Persona. Tales of Destiny is.
What about Lunar? You guys would disappoint me.
I love Lunar as well. You're right though. It more or less it is the PlayStation. The PlayStation is the RPG machine. No pun intended. It kind of
dude, 100%. I agree with you.
it does. This Super Nintendo has a lot of great RPGs, but I guess the PlayStation did kind of overshadow it. And then yeah, those original IPs. I mean, even something like Spyro, the Fear Effect games.
Yeah, Crash Bandicoot.
Crash. Blood Omen Legacy of Kain is
oh man, awesome. Soul Reaver, man. Soul Reaver. Where is Soul Reaver now?
That is, I guess we can
I have
touch on
said
that
that for
briefly.
years, man. They need to bring that back.
I guess we can touch on that because they had been working on kind of like a relaunch of the Legacy of Kain series.
But I heard they canceled it.
They did. They canceled it. It was going to be like a reimagining, so it was just going to be new designs for Kain and Raziel. They were going to rework the storyline. It was going to be just a new reimagining of Legacy of Kain, which I think would have been awesome because it's one of my favorite series of all time. They scrapped it. They scrapped it, and what's the online game called? Nosgoth? Is that what it's called? It's just called Nos.
Yeah, I think it's Nosgoth something. Yeah, I'm not interested right now.
Yeah, they scrapped the reboot, and I mean, if there was a series that could, a reboot was applicable, it would be Legacy of Kain because they put out 5 games. They really did as much as they were going to do with that story. It was getting pretty convoluted anyway, and the last game came out over a decade ago almost.
Yeah, the one place, Soul Reaver 2 on PlayStation 2. It was over.
Defiance.
Defiance was that was more based on
that was the
Kain.
That was the crossover one where you would go from playing as Kain to Raziel, and you would swap back and forth between the two of them. That was the last one they put out, and I think that was in 2003, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So if a series could have used a reboot, it was that, and they were working on it, and they had some working trailers, and they looked pretty damn awesome, and they ended up scrapping it and focusing on Nosgoth, which I'm not an MMORPG player, but by all accounts, by all accounts, it's nothing to get excited about. So that's
Probably they canceled the game because they wanted to do a first-person shooter of Soul Reaver.
maybe they did. They were gonna do Call of Duty Soul Reaver.
Like the Oddworld games. They did that with the Oddworld games. Like they were all like these
They did.
really neat, weird games, and then like they brought it to the original Xbox and it became a first-person shooter. It's like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
That's the one. Stranger's Wrath is the one game where I'll forgive that because you could
It's not
swap.
bad.
You could swap it. Yeah, you could swap between first and third person. There was plenty of platforming segments where you could use your third person perspective. And on top of that, that was another. Like I love anything with Oddworld attached to it. Any and all games made by Oddworld inhabitants, I love them absolutely. So I was skeptical. I did not play. I played a Munch's Odyssey when it first came out because it looked like just a 3D version of Abe's Odyssey.
Yeah. When you move to Japan and you marry and all that stuff, when you get a PlayStation 4, you have to get Sweet and Tasty.
Sweet and Tasty, or is it Sweet and Tasty or New and Tasty?
New and Tasty, I think. Yeah, New and Tasty, something like that. Let me check it out. But yeah, that's a game I have. It's pretty awesome, and I'm a sucker for Oddworld. It's really cool, man.
Yeah, Oddworld. That's one you can't go wrong. That's another great IP that came out on the PlayStation. So
I'll have to play that Xbox One. I've not played it. I just knew that they changed it into a first person.
It's New and Tasty.
I passed on Stranger's Wrath initially because I felt that same way. I was like, oh, they're turning it into an FPS. I mean, that's lame. I think it wasn't until maybe a few years after it was released, I bought it used at a GameStop for like $10 or something just to try it because I was looking for something to play, and it ended up being like really, really good. So yeah, I was not disappointed at all by The Stranger's Wrath. But so that does. I guess we're all in consensus now. We all want to be buried with a PlayStation after we die.
Yeah, it sounds good.
All right, excellent. Okay, so we're all going to be buried with a PlayStation when we die, and that's the end of the questions that were given to me by Weekend Game Guy Chris Long. So we're done. We're done with all those questions for the. That was like the longest tag response ever, but we're done with those questions.
People answering the questions, so.
So we're gonna move along here, and we are going to. We're going to see if there are any questions in the comments. A shit ton of comments. Doesn't look like there's a whole lot of questions, though. Somebody says they're going to sub to me because I said I like Musashi, so thank you. I like Musashi a lot. Jeez. Let's find some questions here.
Looks like they want to talk about Musashi, man.
Everybody wants to talk about Brave Prince and Musashi. That's the topic now.
Yeah, I think the questions are on the top. I saw a couple.
Okay, we got one. Okay, Mr. Dude 206, a fellow I'm very familiar with. He's actually a co-host on the I think it's Power to the Players podcast, along with Michael B. the Game Genie and Weekend Game Guy 1, who provided me with those questions. Mr. Dude 206 says, out of the King of Fighters realm, which person would you say matches your persona? Karkamo, if you could be one King of Fighters person, who are you? Who's your perfect King of Fighters match?
Well, that's let me see. Okay, I have a couple. Well, let me make a choice. I'm between Yashiro and Yori. Because right now you see me all like pulled together and stuff, but when I get in the ring, man, I really get. Yes. So, I really need to kill someone right now. So that's the thing. Yeah, I'm between Yashiro and Yori. Because they define me. Too bad they're not bald.
True.
Yeah, very true. But anyway, yeah, let me see. I'm gonna go with Yashiro because Yashiro has like a lot of holds, and I'm a pro wrestler, so that's the thing. I'm gonna kind of change the subject, but not too much. That's the thing. When I became a pro wrestler, when I started playing, I would always, any fighting game, I'd always pick up, like Ryu and Ken and Sub-Zero and Scorpion. But when I became a wrestler, I started to use the grapplers in every freaking game. And like now I'm gonna specialize in grapplers. I'm a pro wrestler, so I have to use the wrestlers. So I started to change everything. I started to use Zangief. Um, I started to use, and King of Fighters started to use Yachido. I started to use Clark, and all the grapplers. I started to use King a lot in Tekken. Like I use Horang and I use Paul Phoenix, and then I started to use King. So anyway, yeah. So I think I would go with Yashido because he's right up my alley. He's a grappler, and when he gets in all the Orochi thingy, he gets more crazy and he gets more powerful. And when I see blood, when I see my own blood especially, I get more crazy and I get more powerful.
And
So I would go with Yashido.
And it's kind of like you have the Orochi thingy.
Yes, I kind of have the Orochi thingy.
Nice. I love the Orochi thingy. Andrew, not sure how familiar you are with the King of Fighters series, but if you had to say one character in King of Fighters is most like you, who do you think it would be?
Chang.
It's really hard. I'm pretty familiar with it. Why don't you answer and come back to me?
Okay. All right. Let's see. I don't know. I kind of want to flatter myself and say I'd be most like Terry.
See, that's what I was going to say.
But Terry's too. I'm not cool enough to be Terry. Like Terry's
Me
too
neither.
badass. I don't know. I think maybe I'd be. I don't know. I always fancied myself a little more like Yamazaki. Like.
Oh, man, I forgot about Yamasaki, man. That's out my alley too. He's pretty awesome.
Yamazaki's he's a nut, but he's a dick all the time.
Yeah.
And like Yamazaki reminds me of myself when I'm around people I don't like. It's just constant. It's constant dick mode. Like it's like tattooed on my forehead. Like when I'm around people I know that I don't like, I turn into like a complete asshole. Not just as a defensive tactic, but because I see my opportunity to be an asshole, and I think it could be entertaining. So I think I'd be most like Yamazaki in that way. He seems like a complete nutball sometimes, and it's very entertaining to him. And I think on the other hand, I'd be a lot like because Andy has a girlfriend with huge hooters, and so do I. So.
The character I use is Mai, but I'm not like her whatsoever.
Definitely not like Mai. Please don't make me think about that.
Yeah, oh my god. It's like the
Think of you
hottest
and
video
Mai's
game
little
character ever.
Imagine you and Mai's little ninja outfit.
Oh, dude, no, nobody wants to imagine that.
Little ninja thong.
I don't know. I guess my first thought was Terry as well. I guess I'll just go with that. I don't really know. I can't think because most of the time, like I said, I use Mai as a character, but she's nothing like me. I don't know. That's a hard question. I'm really not sure, honestly. Did somebody say Gato when I first said? Yes.
I said Chang. I said Chang.
But
You like
You could cosplay as Shang, man. You're just like him.
yes, you're right now. You're with your shaved head and your beard. You could pull off a sweet Chang, dude. You could get a giant ball, and fucking carry it around with you.
I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that.
Level it off at people. That would be pretty sweet.
That was pretty awesome.
Okay, so that's who we are if we were King of Fighters characters. Oh boy. Okay, Jimmy Hoffa is here.
Boy.
Jimmy, my man.
The import game review master. He says, as far as Brave Fensu Musashi goes, did you guys buy the game pretty much just to play the Final Fantasy VIII demo, but end up liking BFM a lot better than Final Fantasy VIII in the end? For me personally, I had before the game came out, I had played a demo of Brave Fencer Musashi. I think it was just a SquareSoft demo disc. I think it might have also had one of the Bushido Blade games on it. I'm not sure, but I played the demo of Brave Fencer Musashi before playing the full game. So when I did eventually get it, I got it just because I really liked the demo of it that I played. And then when I eventually got around to playing Final Fantasy VIII, I didn't like it. I actually like Brave Fencer Musashi more than Final Fantasy VIII, actually. So no, yeah. So no, I did not buy Brave Fencer Musashi for the Final Fantasy VIII demo. I bought it because I played the Musashi demo, and I thought it was awesome. Either of you guys?
I
Go ahead.
hate Final Fantasy VIII. I'm just going to go on the record for saying I hate that game. I don't like it. I think it's the worst of the series. I think it's worse than the newer ones. I don't like that game.
God, you really hate it? Worse than the newer ones? Come on.
I just don't like it, man. I feel like and it's not just the fact that after 7 it had such a high bar to hit. It's because I like 9 a lot. Like, a lot of people don't like that, but I really like 9. I thought it was awesome.
I like 9. It was like a throwback to Final Fantasy.
Exactly, and I'm just, I don't know, man. Number 8 just didn't do it for me. I definitely like Musashi a lot better than that. A lot better. That demo you were talking about, it wouldn't happen to be the one that came with Parasite Eve, would it?
I think it is.
Okay, that's what I thought.
That's probably what it is. I probably got it with Parasite Eve, and that's what got me into Musashi. It was a really sick demo, and really made me want to play it. And I am combing through the questions, combing through the comments, I should say, trying to find some more questions. Okay. All right.
You forgot about me, man. What's up? You left me hanging.
Did I?
Oh, didn't you let him answer?
Yeah, you did.
I'm sorry, dude. I didn't mean to overlook you like that. Carcamo.
Okay. Oh, don't worry. Mine's going to be quick. Now, I'm going to go back to piracy again. What happened is that I didn't know that demo even existed because I bought Brave Fencer Musashi because I was at the Chinito, and that Chinito at that time was called Game Masters, and they were actually, a kid was playing Brave Fencer Musashi, and I had no idea what the game was about. I know it was an action RPG, kind of like, a Zelda style thingy. And I saw the first stage, like the prelude, when the giant boulder comes along, and it looked fun. And I got the game, and I freaking loved it. And and obviously it was just the CD with the writing and everything, and so I didn't even know about Final Fantasy VIII, about the demo. So in my case, I didn't buy Final Fantasy. I didn't buy Brave Fencer Musashi just because the Final Fantasy VIII demo. And then, speaking of Final Fantasy VIII, I'm gonna get into an argument with Andrew because there is no way in hell that game can be worse than Final Fantasy 13, man.
Well, to be fair, I've never played 13, so it could be worse than that.
Oh, man, trust me, it's awful, man. It's awful. I'm just gonna give you like the highlights, if you will, why that game's so bad. Now, the characters, they suck. The story, it's stupid. It's more stupid than Final Fantasy VIII, and I know, I admit that playing Final Fantasy VIII a couple of times, like as a grown-up, the story is pretty inconsistent. But anyway, so they took out the world map. There's no world map anymore. There's no side quest. And it's the game. I'm gonna tell you my experience when I played it. The cool thing about Final Fantasy 13, for me, was that I never saw a review, so I went blind to the game. So and I kind of like that. So, I had no external influences. So what happened? I played the game. I was in, like the first dungeon, and like 2 hours later, I was still in the dungeon. And I'm like, man, this is a big ass dungeon. And then a cutscene came in, and I was still in a dungeon. And after like almost 4 hours in, like without turning off the game, and I'm like, man, when am I gonna get out of this dungeon? And I'm like, oh, fuck this shit. I went to internet, and then I read the thing. Like, there's no world map. So the game feels, and I kid you not, at least the first one, feels like an eternal dungeon. You're like just, and it doesn't even have like branches. It's like an endless hallway, and I'm not even close to kidding. And yeah, for that and the other reasons and many other more, that's why that game sucks. And really, Final Fantasy VIII, it's way much better than that. Even with the stupid love story, that doesn't make sense.
That,
So
that does that does sound pretty terrible. You paint a pretty bad picture there. I just didn't.
What happened to Square? Like, what happened to them?
I don't know, man.
Why did they make great games and then decide, okay, we're going to take everything that's great about them and fucking get rid of all of it?
Yeah, I know, man.
Dude,
It's like, what happened to you guys?
Take that question and apply it not only to Square,
Konami.
apply it to Capcom. I think, for me, the only company for me that I was enjoying their games, like as far back as the 8-bit days, that I still consistently enjoy their games now, is probably Tecmo. Like, Tecmo still makes games that are easy to enjoy. They make they haven't made one in a while, but the Ninja Gaiden series, the Dead or Alive series.
Yeah, that's right.
The Fatal Frame series. Tecmo is still
Fatal Frame, awesome, man.
Tecmo's still making good stuff. They're working on the next Fatal Frame. What is it? Team Zero is working on the next Fatal Frame installment. So I think they're one of the few companies still around that was around during the 8-bit days that's still making games that are really enjoyable. Konami ruined Castlevania with the Lords of Shadow series. I can't stand Lords.
Castlevania was over from PlayStation 2, man. I think they didn't know how to do I don't know. They didn't know what to do with Castlevania when it hit PlayStation 2. I mean, it's not terrible, but I don't think it's good because and I can sum up at least Lament of Innocence like it's weird too. It's a hallway. Then you get into a circle and you fight some guys. Then you go into a hallway. You get into another circle, and that's basically it. That's the game.
But that's kind of representative of the original Castlevania games, where you walk in a straight line. Maybe you go up, maybe you go down a bit, but it's really predictable patterns for the most part. Lament of Innocence and Curse of Darkness, I think that they were decent efforts to make 3D Castlevania games. They remained fun. They still felt like Castlevania games, at least. The characters, the settings, it still felt like Castlevania games. Lords of Shadow, to me, the name Castlevania is not applicable to Lords of Shadow. It's so derivative of other games.
They should have called it Castle of War.
They should Castle of War Colossus.
Yeah,
is what they should have fucking called it.
I think they wanted to do something like, guys, we grabbed the Metroid formula and we did Metroidvania. Maybe we can do something with God of War and we will do it God of Mania, or I don't know, thinking something like that.
But they forgot to make it fun. They just it's linear. The gameplay gets stale pretty quickly because it was basically, like you said, it's God of War. By that time, that gameplay style was already getting kind of stale. And then add on top of that, it's so ass-numbingly long, and it doesn't need to be. Unless you're like Symphony of the Night, if you really want to get everything, can be kind of long. Lament of Innocence, and Curse of Darkness can be kind of long because it's an action RPG. Lords of Shadow is still probably longer than those games, and those games are on some level RPGs. It doesn't make sense to me. For as simple, as linear as that game was, there was no sense for it to be that long. Patrick Stewart couldn't save that fucking game.
Yeah.
So,
Not to mention that I've talked to Jim about this before, but there is not one fucking note of any kind of Castlevania music in that whole fucking game, dude. And like that's one of my favorite things about Castlevania.
And that was the thing that made Castlevania Castlevania. It was so traditional, you know, the tunes and everything. At least something that hears like that, man. At least something, but no, it really. I think they really wanted to. They wanted to sound epic, like God of War.
Well,
you know,
I mean,
the ho 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 and all that thing, and yeah, man, they fucked up.
What they could have done, and it would have been a simple thing to do, is all the scenes where you're running to get to the next part. They could have left all that orchestral like they have it. But then when you're fighting shit, start pumping some fucking Castlevania music, man. Some upbeat, like, techno-ish Castlevania music so we can fight and get that feeling, you know? But
Dun, 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 dun.
yeah, something. They could have even used the old songs. Like, they wouldn't even have had to write new shit. They could have used all the old stuff. They missed a big opportunity.
Remix Vampire Killer or Bloody Tears or something, and there you go. They could have done that, but they omitted that. So, I feel like Konami out of Capcom is just ruined Mega Man, which is like my favorite series of all time. They're just thrown Mega Man to the wayside, which is really fucking heartbreaking. Resident Evil is just like straight action games now. I don't know. It just, I mean, again, like you said, what happened to Square? What happened to pretty much like all of the developers that made the best games when I was a kid? It's disheartening. We're gonna move on to one final question here, and then I think we'll wrap it up. This is from, and I hope I'm gonna pronounce your name right, Carcamo. I think this guy came to watch you. It's Jacinto Jose Molto Alain. He wants to know what do we think is the best Nintendo 64 game. For him, it's Star Fox 64. Carcamo, what is your absolute favorite N64 game?
Okay, let me see. For me, I think it'll be GoldenEye because, like I said before, I played most of the N64 now that I'm a grown-up, because most of my memories with the N64 was playing at a friend's house, and I have the fondest memories of GoldenEye. We played the hell out of GoldenEye for hours on the multiplayer, and to be honest, and a video game confession right here, I never played like the campaign. So yeah, for me it will be GoldenEye. There's tons of N64 games that I haven't played yet. Like I said, I went to PlayStation, and oh my god, what a sacrilege, Carcamo. But well, I'm a freaking grown up, and there's other things to do. That's not that I want to play. I wish I could play all the freaking day, but well, you got to pay the rent somehow.
Totally. GoldenEye. That wasn't the first 64 game I played. I think Mario was my first 64 game, but GoldenEye was one of those games where I like you, I had a PlayStation. I was Nintendo up to that point, but the PlayStation hooked me, and I ended up with one of those. So when I went to friends' houses who had 64s, GoldenEye was pretty much always in there, and I don't know, I guess when I was a kid, I didn't really care so much for first-person shooters outside of like Duke Nukem or Doom, something to that effect. So I wasn't as taken in by GoldenEye as a lot of other people were. But I did absolutely love Mario Kart 64.
Awesome.
Just because the original Super Mario Kart I had played so much with my brother and my sister. Spending hours and hours and hours running the same, because we couldn't. I think we couldn't get past like a certain like CC level. So just me and my sister constantly like, running through the 50cc Grand Prix over and over and over again, just because it was so fun, and then spending hours and hours and hours playing the battle mode until it was a rental cartridge, so we didn't give a shit, but it was like getting so hot that the fucking thing was gonna melt. So when I finally got to play Mario Kart 64 well after its release, because like I said, I didn't have a 64, but my friends did. 4-player Grand Prix, 4-player battle modes. I mean, it was just like that's like fun. Like when I think of games that are just like pure fun, pure enjoyment, I think of the Mario Kart games, and that's probably my favorite 64 game of all time is Mario Kart 64. Just like fun, like somebody managed to shit out fun and
Yeah.
mold it into a cartridge, and then that's what we got. Andrew, favorite 64 game?
Okay. Little bit of a story. I was a Nintendo kid, and I did not get a PlayStation. I got a 64.
Poor kid.
Yeah,
Well done, sir. Commend
I
you.
didn't. Let's see how to like back then. I thought that games on discs were going to be a big problem because of them getting scratched. So like I leaned more towards the cartridge because I didn't really know anything about like the actual, how much information you could actually fit on a disc and stuff like that. Like I didn't know anything about that kind of stuff. I just knew that my CDs got scratched to fuck and wouldn't play anymore. So like I should probably stick with cartridges. But I got a 64, and you guys definitely mentioned. I mean, GoldenEye's great. Mario Kart's great. Mario 64 is great. But let's see, my favorite of all time. I definitely Banjo-Kazooie is a really great game. I mean, Ocarina of Time. We don't even have to bring that up. That game's awesome. Majora's Mask's awesome.
Only reason I didn't say Ocarina was because it seemed too cliche.
Exactly. But I think
I didn't want to say that because of that too.
yeah, I think my favorite game, the game that I put the most hours in, and I'll pick this as one of my favorites, is Mario Party. Mario Party is really cool because you could get a group of friends, because that's what the 64 was made for, was get a group of friends together and play like games together. And me and my friends played Mario Party like so much. I mean, so much the fact that we would wear like holes in our hands and literally bleed because you would play that game so much and just tug of war and stuff. You would just spin that stick so hard, broke so many controllers. One game I want to mention that not a lot of people talk about is a great game on 64 is what is it?
Jet Force
Gemini. That
cool.
game is so cool, and nobody talks about that game. But that is a really cool game. But yeah, I would say probably Mario Party. That's definitely like in any of those 3 Mario Parties that came out. The first 3 are awesome. The newer ones not so much, but the first 3 are awesome.
For sure. Just to kind of reiterate that Jet Force Gemini, rare in general on the N64. Just play anything rare made for the N64, and you're gonna have an amazing fucking time. GoldenEye, Jet Force Gemini, fucking Banjo-Kazooie, Conquer, Killer Instinct.
Conquer! Oh, I want to change my choice.
Dude,
Conquer's so good, dude. That game's so funny, man.
And if I'm going to be just talking about rare games real quick, and I said my favorite game on the N64 is Mario Kart 64, like a close contention has to go to Diddy Kong Racing.
Oh, yeah.
That was really awesome.
Dude, that game is so fun. That was like Mario Kart kind of taken to the next level. There was like, some people bitched, they thought it was too slow, they thought Mario Kart was faster, and therefore it was better. Diddy Kong had so much content, man. For a fucking kart racing game, there was so much loaded into that game.
It was like a story mode and everything.
Yeah, like unheard of shit for a kart racing game / boat racing / fucking planes, fucking 4 players, fucking big overworld that you can explore and collect things in typical rare fashion. Fucking Diddy Kong Racing is like a fucking That's gotta be some kind of standard for fucking kart racing games. Anyway, with that question being answered, we've been talking for quite a while now, and I don't know if we're getting tired of it, but I have to imagine people are getting tired of listening to me. They're probably not getting tired of listening to you guys because I don't, because you guys talk ad nauseum and I just listen because it's like fucking honey coming out of Carcamo's mouth over there.
You guys.
But that's going to go ahead and do it for us. Been up here for about an hour and a half. I hope everybody enjoyed listening to us just ramble on about kind of inane, crazy bullshit dealing with video games, horror movies, music, and all types of ill shit. So I want to say thank you to RPG Machine 86. Andrew, thank you for being here tonight, sir.
Oh, no problem, man. I'll do it anytime.
For sure. Good times. And, of course, I want to thank the man all the way down in Panama, Mr. Carcamo Forjador del Dolor. Thank you for being here, sir.
Yeah, that's pretty good Spanish, man.
Thank you. I've practicing that all day because I knew I was going to have to say it eventually.
Well, you did a pretty good job.
All right. Well, I really appreciate both of you guys being here. I appreciated everybody that came out to watch. I hope you all enjoyed. I highly encourage you all to go. The links are down in the description below. Go check out RPG Machine 86. Go check out Carcamo. They're awesome dudes. They're gamers through and through, and they make some excellent fucking videos. You will not be sorry. So go check them out. And again, everybody, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, liking, subscribing, all that stuff. Gracias, arigato, dankeschön, all that shit. And thank you. We will see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.
Villano.